Hey, what's up, YouTube? Well, if you saw my last video about these cardboard 3D printer filament rolls and the possible damage they can cause, the update to that is I was able to get the filament out of that. It does actually come apart once you take the one center bolt out. It allows the sensor to come off, and there's two Phillips head screws on the back side. So I disassembled it. I was able to get the filament out. Now, unfortunately, for me, I was not able to get the filament unstuck out of here. Now, there's a bunch of different names for this particular tube. This is part of the hot end assembly. It looks like that, and it threads into that block, and it actually goes into here. Okay, this is your heat sink, part of your heat break device. Okay, so it was lodged in there. I couldn't get it out. Now, according to the instruction manual that came with my printer, you know, this whole thing is supposed to come out as an assembly. And, you know, it's got these two little screws right here. All right. And it's got a set screw inside of there. So you back off the set screw, which I did. Then you take the two screws out. And the whole thing is supposed to slide out. That's what they show in the instructions. And then this actually unscrews off the back of here, and then you can take something and just, you know, ram it through. Well, unfortunately, somebody at the factory like really jammed that set screw in there, and it actually created a little burr on here. Sorry about the focus, guys. This thing's going nuts. Created a burr. I don't know if you can see it right there. You can see how they just really, they torque down on that thing. And it's really unnecessary because it's got these two screws that hold the whole assembly in there. Okay, it's not going to go anywhere. But anyways, needless to say, even with the set screw out, it made that burr. And this thing, I broke it getting it out of there. So now I was screwed. So I sent Voxelab an email, and that didn't do me any good. They never replied. So I was reading the manual. I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I was looking for a parts list or parts breakdown or something. Nothing in the manual, nothing on the Voxelab website. I hate to say this, but as far as after sales support for this machine or any Voxelab machine, you're pretty much up shit's creek without a paddle. There is not a whole lot of parts available. You can get the screen. If this motherboard, something craps out on it, you can get the motherboard. You can get the main board for this unit. I think you can get the stepper motors. But as far as like all the pieces you need, no, you're screwed. This whole print head assembly, there's nothing available of any of this. So contacted Amazon because this machine is literally 2 weeks old. And they want to try to pass the buck on to Voxelab, but the manual clearly says that after sales support solely rests upon the company that sells it. So that i.e. is Amazon. So Amazon, after I told them that and I read it to them out of the manual, they put me on hold. Then they came back and said their system is having glitches. They can't help me right now. They will call me back later. And that's the last I heard out of them. So I went on the hunt to try to find this thing. Now, out of the whole internet, the only thing I was able to find was this on Amazon from the Voxelab store. And as you can see, they call this whole thing an extruder hot end assembly is what they call it in the manual, but this is how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to slide into this, okay, right here, and screw down, assembled, just like that. But as you can see, currently unavailable. They don't know when it's going to be back in stock. So I literally spent hours on Amazon and eBay to find something I could replace it with. Now, that's where everything comes in handy, because luckily the Voxelab printer, they pretty much copied a lot of the stuff the Ender printers used. Okay, so as you can see, the Ender calls it a heat throat or heat break, but this is the exact one that I bought. I actually found it on eBay first, but eBay, it was half the price, but it comes from China, so we're talking, you know what, a month out. So I found it on Amazon, 2-day delivery. And I used my micrometers, and the only difference is it's just a tad bit shorter, but that really doesn't matter. Actually, I believe this thing fits a lot better, because the way this is made, it's got a shoulder on it. So it really doesn't even need this set screw anymore, because this thing's going to slide in here. Okay. Now it is a snug fit. It needs to be for heat transfer. But as you can see, it fits perfect in there. Okay. So once you assemble this thing like you're supposed to, and you put the screws in it, and it cinches down, tightens down on here, this thing isn't going to go anywhere. I mean, I'm probably going to take and just slightly snug up that little set screw, just a little bit, just to put a little pressure on it, maybe. But I'm definitely not going to crank down on it like they did at the factory and cause this burr, which caused it to break coming out of here. I had to get violent with this thing, because once the top of it broke off, it doesn't really matter at that point. But I wanted to share this because, like I said, after sales support of these Voxelab units, they're pretty much screwed, but there's a reason why this printer was $100 cheaper than the Ender 3 V2, because the Ender 3 does have available parts. I still think this is a great machine. I do like the upgrades they've done, like the rails, the guide rails. They that's the new thing. I mean, the direct drive extruder. Hey, one thing I can tell you is they advertise that this direct drive extruder system right here has some of the most pressure in the industry. And I can confirm that. It's got so much pressure that if something happens and it gets jammed up in here, it's going to be jammed up. It ain't coming out, and it's going to keep pushing until it destroys the filament. So, yeah, they're not lying there. But I wanted to post this because I'm sure I'm not the only person with a Voxelab Aquila D1 who's going to have this problem. They're going to have something jam up in here, and they're going to have to take this assembly out, because that's what the instructions tells you to do. And when they go to take it out, they might snap it off because it's real thin right here. And once you take that set screw out, it does not want to come out. So this is what you're going to have to buy to replace it with. Hope it helps.